Last month, a Texas mother found her child's newly approved geography book referring to African slaves shipped to plantations in the United States during the 1500s and the 1600s, not as slaves, but rather as workers. The Texas Board of Education rejected a measure a few days ago which would require university experts to fact check the state's textbooks in public schools. The board rejected the measure 8-7, and they said, hey, having our citizens and, parents and whoever wants to get involved fact check our books, that's good enough. We don't need no academic consultation here to figure out what should be in our books. Marty Rowley, a Republican board member from Amarillo, Texas, said, quote, I think we're making it stronger and better and more expert than in the past. Now, not everybody agrees. Ellen Rockmore, who's a writing professor at Dartmouth College, wrote an op-ed in the New York Times last month saying, this entire writing of these Texas textbooks is basically written to favor slave owners, downplay how bad slavery was, and downplay the horrors of the situation of slave ownership. Academics, obviously, Lewis, are criticizing this. Yeah, slavery, what's that? I remember that in the 1500s, workers came over from Africa and American plantation owners were nice enough to give them jobs, unpaid jobs that they couldn't leave, of course.
And you could probably have book after book, textbook after textbook after textbook of the horrible things that were just done to slaves after they got here. It was crazy, Dave. I mean, do you think that through this type of
revisionist history,
through textbooks, is it possible that at some point in the future, people might start referring to the slaves that were brought over as workers?
I really hope not, because that would truly be an atrocity. And we have to remember, history is typically written by the winners or the survivors or those who made it out alive. Call it what you want. Our entire perspective on Christopher Columbus and the colonization of the United States by the Pilgrims and their successors, the followers, are written in a way that, by and large, more of an effort is being made now to recognize that there was a total wiping out of the native populations, a combination of violent killings and through the disease that was brought to the West or to the Americas from Europe. But it's written in a way that, of course, downplays the negative impact. Of course, now we all live here and it's all great in America and the whole thing. But we have to remember that when we talk about Thanksgiving, when we talk about Columbus Day, a lot of that history is lost. And we have to keep that in mind. And I hope that we are now not putting slavery up on the chopping block as something else that will be completely whitewashed. When we went to school, Lewis, we learned what I still think is a pretty accurate and sensitive and realistic history of slavery in the United States.
Yes, agreed. But not so much when it comes to the Native American situation.
Right.
I think that was a little bit whitewashed. And so, unfortunately, we have big businesses writing these books.
Right.
And does it make sense for them to financially to write a book that would be accurate and fair in our eyes? Are they going to lose money on that? Will it be adopted by schools and universities?
Well, we've heard the reason that Texas has so much power with regard to these big publishers and the revisionism that they've been going through. Texas individually is one of the bigger textbook markets in the country because it is one of the bigger states, and many publishers don't want to then create different versions for smaller states, etc. It's a sort of a simplistic explanation, but to Lewis's point, money is probably a factor here, not in why parents in Texas want garbage like this in textbooks, but as to why then the textbooks can start to pervade public schools.
Yeah. And so it might be interesting to speak to someone who works for one of these publishers.
Yeah.
But that also may be difficult.
I assume that they are probably not doing too many interviews. I don't know why anyone would want to distort the unbiased factual history of the United States of Jesus Christ under biblical law, as this country was really called before liberals said, well, we're going to call it the United States of America. Why would anyone want to retell history in that way? I don't know. Remember that I am on Twitter at @Pakman. Lewis is on Twitter at LewisMotomedy. It's a fantastic program today, probably the best in at least a couple of days.